Wholeness, beautiful beings, welcome to my space, my place, my channel, my portal. This is Rashida Silvertree here, and let's just get right into it. Today's topic is about the PATRIX, why I am leaving patriarchal religions behind. So, disclaimer, in no shape, way, or form am I going after the man or talking down on men. There's a lot of rhetoric out there that's really, really divisive when it comes to men and women. I think it's part of like a deep collective healing process for a lot of women, sharing their experiences with the with men in general, married, single, daughters, sisters, wives, ex-wives, mothers, you name it, and there's videos and messages out there that are, I think, very therapeutic and cathartic for many women. And so it's like, but a lot of it's really, really blunt and hard for the opposite, for the man to hear, right? It's just some really hard truths that are being expressed on both sides, both male and female, women and men, and primarily focused in on heterosexual, men and women, but yeah, in general. But yeah, there's a lot of that. My channel's not about that. I can only speak on my personal experiences, my own internal intuitive knowing, if you will, my own interpretation of my external and internal realities. I'm just here to share, and I'm inspired by by source, to share certain things, certain topics. Sometimes I just feel like it's a topic that I want to talk about. But PATRIX, let's get into it. So those of you who are new to this term I coined, PATRIX is actually the real Matrix. Back in the 90s, the late 90s, when they came out with the film The Matrix, to me, that was a huge play on words that has caused great confusion on a subconscious level. When you study language and you study etymology and you study the root words of, especially English words, you study the root and where the words are come from and their definition, you're going to see what they did with that. PATRIX is what we should be leaving behind per se. It's something where we should be evolving and expanding beyond this program. Matrix comes from mater, comes from the word mother, right? Mother Earth. Mother is life-giving, right? She is the neutralizer and the balance of all of life. Pater, PATRIX, pater, that's father, patronage, paternal, papa, right? Even baba. Like we have, it's in us in the human collective where we instinctually can differentiate between the two essences, right? But they played us with that word back in 1998 and beyond. Oh, we leave the matrix, leave the matrix. The matrix is nature. The matrix is the organic world. It is the nature world. It is where leaves and trees and herbs and grass and animals and weather and all that's part of that is organic, comes from Mother Nature, comes from the mother, comes from the matrix. If anything, we should be returning to her, not leaving her. What they meant to say is leave the PATRIX. We are paying patriarchal and feeding a patriarchal system for tricks. Tricks are for kids, right? And the mentality that we have, they really want us to think in a very dumbed down, very kid-like mentality where we get caught up by distractions and illusions. And, there's a saying, this poem by Oscar Wilde, "Come away, O human child, to the wonders of the wild, with a fairy hand in hand, for the world is more full of weeping than you can understand." And it's almost like the world is so bad and so imbalanced that we must force ourselves to be like Peter Pan and to never grow up, to never evolve. And so, that's where I one day felt in my heart like that. I'm like, why do we call it the Matrix? Leave the Matrix. No, no. And then at the same time, they want us to feed into the Patrix, which is a patriarchal system, a very dark patriarchal system. And, where, we're paying for tricks. We pay and we pay and we pay. We pay a price to live for everything. We have to pay for everything. Nothing is free in this system. Nothing is for free. When you see free on a label, you need to question why it's for free. Okay? Before we get into it though, I need to take my superoxide, this mutase. It's really good for the immune system. I try not to take too many vitamins because sometimes it's just empty vitamins. And the best source of vitamins you can get is from food. Okay, side note. So that's what I'm taking. All right, let's get into it. Why am I choosing to leave the patriarchal religions behind? Now, I explained what Patrix is. So those of you that are like, what? What's that? Okay, that gave you an explanation. Now let's get into it. Okay, patriarchy. Now, we live in a patriarchal system. This has nothing to do with men are better than women are better than men are evil, women are all good, or women are evil, and men are good. This has nothing to do with this whole divisive bullcrap and narrative that you see oozing in the virtual reality space right now. You're not a feminist, you're not a this, you're not a that. It's like right now you have to claim teams. And I'm not one to claim a team. I'm just not. And I'm not gonna apologize for that. Because if anything, you have to retrain your subconscious mind to really see what's going on. Okay? So I've shared a little bit about my background. I was raised Muslim, and a Muslim American as an African American woman. So it's a very unique type of upbringing that I have. But how did I come to this conclusion where I am leaving the patriarchal religions behind? And on my unique experience with religion and spirituality, I come from a religious and spiritual mixed bag. Okay, where I come from a lineage of Jehovah's Witnesses. I come from mostly Protestant, Baptist. Let's see, another one. I said Muslim, so Orthodox, Sunni. And then on my personal path, I've come across occultism, paganism, Eastern traditions like Kundalini yoga for a little while. I've just done the non-Western, non-traditional path for a little while as well. So I've been exposed to so many Christian denominations, it's not even funny. I bumped into the Quakers, and this is due primarily with my travels during when I was a musician in college, and we would tour pretty much the majority of Midwest and the East Coast, up and down. Okay, for 4+ years I did this, and even when I was in France, I participated in a Protestant choral group, and then I also simultaneously participated in a Catholic choral group or choir. So I performed, in a cathedral, like one of the oldest cathedrals that was built in the 12th century France. I've had amazing experiences, and I'm very, 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 very happy and very, very grateful that I have seen what I have seen that helped me shape to what I am where. Oh, I forgot Sufism. Okay, so at 35, I've seen a lot, but oh man, baptism, Brethren, Methodist, what is it? What's the one? Non-denominational. I mean, across the board. Okay, and throughout my travels or like relationships with their parents or some sect in Christianity, and I would pay my due respect by going to their churches. The parents sometimes would pick up the Quran and start studying the Quran, start studying Arabic so that they could understand my frame of mind. Just all around, I would say my spiritual perspective has been all around very, very um, just exposed and a lot of learning and a lot of experience. Okay, I would break bread with these people. We would perform for to advertise the university. We would perform at these churches, and then they would break us up into small groups, and we would stay a couple nights with the members of the church. And then we would have meals, we would talk, and it exposed me to so much about like the Christian faith. I've been to beautiful cathedrals. I went to, in my time in Barcelona, Catalunya, in España, in Spain. My boyfriend at the time, he was studying abroad in Spain. I was studying in France. And so we would meet in Barcelona, and we would go and we would visit La Sagrada Familia. No, not Sagrada Familia. What was it? Oh, I hope I'm saying it right. La Sagrada Familia. Catedral de la Sagrada Familia. I hope I'm saying it right, but it's a cathedral that was literally built on geometry, sacred geometry. And you guys, I've been in basements where people had churches in their basements. I've been to La Cathédrale de Notre Dame in Strasbourg when I lived in France. I've been to people's homes that were churches. I've been to people's actual church. I've been to mega churches before. I've sang and performed in so many different places. So I am not ignorant, and I'm not making this claim for myself out of ignorance. I've been exposed to much. I will say this though, the only religion that I can really think of that isn't very inclusive would be the Jewish community. And you know what? We're not going to get into it. We're not going to get into it here. But I have to say they are extremely exclusive. My interaction with them when I went to a private school that was predominantly, it was secular, but it was in a Jewish neighborhood, and it was predominantly most, if not all, most of the, patrons in my peer group and the teachers were Jewish, okay? I mean, you could see them on the weekend on Shabbat, and they'd be walking on Saturdays, in black and no car, no driving, all that good stuff. So I was exposed to it, but it's very exclusive. The synagogue was literally behind the school, the private school that I went to for a year. And that was the year of 9/11. So I've seen some things. I haven't seen everything. I'll never see everything, but I've seen a lot. So how did I get to this conclusion of walking away from patriarchal religions? Well, most, especially monotheistic religions, people of the book, the Jews, the Christians, and the Muslims, is based off of patriarchal domination. I'm sorry, I'm gonna not say, I need to work on that, apologizing and whatnot. But it is. And I've come to the conclusion that it's just not really in alignment for me anymore, especially in Islam. I remember having this conversation with my mother, and you know how some parents are, they're like, you're going to be lost. Don't you want to go to heaven? I don't want you to become the al-kafarun, meaning non-believer in Arabic. I don't want you to be burned in the hellfire, and so I've heard all that. But one moment, my mother, we were having a discussion. I said, I can't, for all the things that I know that are wrong in Islam, I cannot bypass what the women and children are going through in Muslim communities in North Africa, Eastern Africa, Western Africa, and the Middle East. There's no way I can call myself a practitioner of Islam and being a Muslim, call myself Muslim. And I know that these people, women and children, are being subjugated to oppression and domination. Their sex is being sold. Children are forced, their fathers are selling them for $5,000, two children for $5,000 in US dollars to a man that could be their great grandfather. The ability where they can't read or can't write or can't drive a freaking car or go to school. And, don't even get me started on sexual pleasure. That doesn't exist. So, it's all for the man. And that's not to say that is like those practices are being practiced here in the US. They are, but they're very discreet, and they're very rare cases where you'll find where, immigrants from the Middle East or West Africa, North Africa, Eastern Africa, and they're Muslim and they bring their stuff here, because it doesn't fly well here at all. But it does happen. When I'm growing up with Arab Americans and going to school and their father is really domineering or whatever. But in good faith, I just couldn't not. And then in my own Sufism actually really had me put a lot of things into question. Sufism is some practitioners in Islam really, they completely like shut down Sufism. Like Sufism is not about Allah. It's not about, it's not a good thing, right? It's very, against Muhammad's hadith and all that other stuff. But then the Sufism is like, well, we are part of Islam too. Sufism is a practice where it's really focused on the heart. And that's what attracted me. There was no fear, like a fearful, angry God. This masculine energy that's supposed to protect you and to provide for you. But if you do or commit a sin, you're going to burn in the hellfire for it. There was none of that in Sufism. You study the 99 names of Allah, which it deals with a lot of alchemy and sound alchemy and dancing and singing and using the alchemy of vibration and sound and dance and chanting to connect and open up that portal of the heart to source. So that was very attractive to me, But then I started to look into the community and how it was set up as well. It was very heavily whitewashed and very heavily male. And they did allow, there was a sprinkle of, a few women here and there in their leadership, but very rare. So I started doing more research on even the definition of Allah. Where does Allah come from? And this is how I came to my conclusion. Allah actually comes from one of the three goddesses in pre-Islamic paganism. Allah comes from the goddess Alat. And there are two other names. I wrote them down. I don't have them with me. And that just kind of broke the veil at that point, because I've always wrestled between following my own internal, maternal, intuitive magic, and then feeling guilty for not praying 5 times a day and fasting 30 days out of a month and wearing the hijab. I wore the hijab for 10 years, okay? But this really, I said, hold on a minute. So even the Kaaba in Mecca, the holy city for Muslims, where they go for Hajj, in the Kaaba there are old relics of stones and of the goddesses. And it just really put things into perspective for me. Most, if not all, patriarchal religions are based off of paganism. And they just are. Do your research. My channel is not one of those documentary channels where you're going to be here for 2 hours watching, clips and stuff in a heavily edited video. I encourage you to do your research, okay? That's what I'm doing. Because you have to come to your own conclusion. But the further I would look into the history, right? The history of spirituality and religion and the role of women. Even when I look back at my French studies and we study Joan of Arc, and how she was leading the French, I think it was some holy war, right? Maybe the Crusade or something. I can't remember the time frame. But I remember studying her very heavily when, as a French student, or studying French, and she ended up burned at the stake. Many women were. Many holy and religious women were. Yeah. So if for my Christians out there, look into Christian paganism practices before Christianity grabbed everyone by the neck. You know what I'm saying? Or pressed a foot on our heads. Because it's very interesting how they filtered so much and how they interwoven things in these holy books that people die by. I even from time to time, I'll even hang out with the Mormons too. They'll come knocking on the door and, be like, can we come in for it? And I'm like, they're male. And I'm like, no, we can talk outside, My grandmother always showed respect to them. So I was taught and raised to, don't raise your fist at them and yell at them for sharing their gospel. I learned more in these interactions anyway. But the place in Mormonism, and a women's role in Mormonism is even more boggling. It just boggles the mind. How much women are needed by man. You can tell by how much we are needed by the other based off of the rules and regulations and restraint that they put on themselves as men and they put onto women. That's the thing. That's why the patriarchy is so powerful, because the men said, in order for us to control what we need, we must also control ourselves. We must shackle ourselves. In order to shackle the woman, we must shackle ourselves, or this will never work. So, given that a lot of the inspiration and rituals that we find in Christo-Islamic, Judeo religions of today, of the modern world, is based off of the mother, the matriarch. And because I always found the ritual of the symbolism behind eating the bread, which is the body of Christ, and drinking Christ's blood. Where does that come from? It didn't just happen out of thin air. Because there are pagan practices where they would eat the flesh of the sacrifice and drink the blood of the sacrifice. And Jesus sacrificed himself, right? Or he was sacrificed. He was the sacrificial lamb in a way, right? He sacrificed himself for us, so we're eating people don't see the correlation. It's too scary, you know? And so, me leaving the patriarchal religions behind, I am entering the void of something that I feel has always been in me, that I brought into this world, my soul brought into this world. Not just my human self, but just my being. I don't talk down on Christians or Muslims or Jews or pagans. And not all pagan traditions are righteous and loving either. So I'm very careful with that, mind you, okay? Very, very careful with that, because a lot, witchcraft and magic, the practice of occultism, has been so demonized by the monotheistic traditions and monotheistic religions, to the point where you call yourself a witch or you call yourself a warlock or an occultist, they associate you with the demon. They associate you with hell, fire, horrible, evil, and they don't do the work or the study. There are dark arts. There are dark practices. That is for sure. And if you were curious about it, I can share about some of my experiences on my path. I am not a practitioner of the what they call the left-handed path or whatever. I claim no lineage, only to the all that is. Where my soul came from, that is what I claim. And I can't sit here and say what that is exactly, because I don't think there are any words for it. It is a state of being. It is a state of beingness. That is my home, not a religion or even a spiritual practice. Spiritual practices keeps me centered in this human experience. Meditation, fasting, practicing Ashtanga yoga. Yes, I know the history of of yoga, okay? For those of you who claim that it's demonic, I understand, I know, I'm aware. It's not, but you have a right to your opinion. Doing my writing rituals, burning of the sage and things. Though I have my practices, I don't have a name for what I do. I will never have a name for it. It is nameless. It is a frequency and vibration. That's it. Where I come from has no name. It doesn't need one. It is felt. It is where love comes from. Do you really need a book on how to love? Love has no book. But then there's the Bible and the Quran, the Torah, the Bhagavad Gita. But love doesn't need a book. So yeah, that's why I left. And it's, I wrestled with it a lot, because it's okay, I need to make this clear cut from Islam. All religions are beautiful to me. Man, when I'm at Notre Dame and I'm in the Basilica, it is a power. I feel it. I'm a firm believer in Christ consciousness, by the way, to my Christians out there. I'm very much a firm believer in Christ consciousness. It's very close to, I felt, I actually would feel Christ consciousness when I would perform music. Especially the sacred music written by those Europeans hundreds of years ago. And I'd be in the middle of choir, we're singing together as a choir, and I felt power. I even get goosebumps just, So I'm aware of the holiness and sacredness in these religions. However, I don't feel attached to them anymore. I'm freeing myself of it, and it's taken a long, Long time. Long time. But that, I'm going to stop it there. 30 minutes is a long time to make a vid, and if you hung in this far, thank you. I know I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one. But I just I felt like it was time to share that. There's like a little fly in here. I felt it was time to share. Because the patriarchal religion has a boot on our necks. It's just stifling. And there are pros to patriarchal religion. There are. When you are sincerely a devout Christian or devout Muslim or Jew or pagan, and you walk in good faith with your practice in religion, I can feel that. Some of my colleagues I've worked with were, this woman, she was one of them, a young nurse. She was younger than me, in her mid-20s. I could feel the love she had in her faith. And that's one of the reasons why I love working with her. She just was so genuine in her Christian faith. And I thought that I just loved that beauty. But most people are not walking in sincerity. They walk in fear, in judgment. And that's not only in the monotheistic religions. That's also in Sikhism, Kundalini Yoga. Look at the place and the role a woman is in these faiths. And that will tell you exactly what you need to know. Your role is nurturer, homemaker. You have the babies. This is your role. Man imprisoned himself so that he could imprison the woman. The woman, we're too free. Call it chaos. We're too free. Or wild energy. Feminine energy is a wild, free-flowing energy. That's why nature is abundant. Life is abundant on this planet. You have life and death constantly in flux. Nothing's stable. Until we became stationary, until we learned how to farm, and then we became owners of the land, where you couldn't just we're naturally nomadic. Human beings are naturally nomadic. We're supposed to be naturally nomadic. That's our true nature. But then farming came in. Oh, now it's my land. No, it's my land. No, it's my land. And then you have war. You have conflict that flows down the bloodline. No, my land, my land, my land, my land. A modern day manifestation would be Palestine and Israel. My land, no, it's my land, it's my land, no, it's my land, it's my land, no. And then they just end up obliterating each other. So I'm not going to push all this on the man. Men are evil, all this other stuff. Because it's all of us. We're all part of the problem in the patriarchal system because we're all upholding it. Women uphold very old but not ancient patriarchal tradition, the shackles. We're meant to be free-flowing. And we're told that without the shackle, without the boot on the neck, without something to fear, without that anger from God, then we're a lost species. Is that true? Oh, it has to be true because it's written in the Bible. It's written in the Quran. It's written in the Bhagavad Gita that man needs direction. Man needs law. Man needs order in order for him to have power. In order for man to have power, he must have order. He must have rules. He must have laws. He must have... And what's so funny is that they end up breaking them anyway. They've developed this moral code for society to follow. The rules are always meant to be broken because it's not a natural state. There are universal laws, don't get me wrong, and I'll make a video on that, but all right, 35 minutes. This is good enough. Let me know what you think. You may not, if you don't agree with me, tell me why. I'm not going to come for you. I'm going to respect you even more because, that's what I like hearing things that are different from me. That's how I learn. And, some of you might leave Bible quotes and to me, if it's written in the book and it's sacred books are book of spells. That's what prayers are. If you're reciting a surah, that is a spell. If you're reciting and quoting the Bible, that is a spell. There's no difference between a grimoire and the holy book. There isn't to me. Now that I know what I know. Now that I've experienced what I've experienced. There's no difference between a witch's grimoire and a pastor's Bible. I've come across pastors on my path that were actively practicing the arts, the dark arts. Did you know that? It's rampant especially in Christianity, unfortunately. It's rampant in these parts. Ask me, I'll tell you stories. I will tell you. You would think the most religious people are usually the ones that are like, oh man, intense about it. Yeah. They do these things. So that's my explanation as to why I am leaving, or I have left the patriarchal religion. Because I want to be free, man. When I leave this world, I'm free. I don't need the whole, you're going to burn in hell, You're not God's chosen one. There's this saying going across the board that you're the chosen. Signs of that you're the chosen one. What? I see it in the New Age community and I see it in the religious community. Chosen ones? We have chosen ones now? Get out of here. That's so egoic. That's so spiritually egoic. It's not even funny. It's not even funny. You can use the word of the Quran and the Bible verses as a way to protect yourself. If you are sincere in your faith, it works. I could take a Bible, study it right now. Take a Bible, study it, master it, learn it, get in tune with it, put it in my heart, and I could recite it. And if I had a spiritual attack, I know it'd work. I can go to a Quran, have it in my heart, recite it, practice it, study it. And if I'm under a spiritual attack, boom, I know it would work. That's how deep my faith is. But my faith is embedded before time. It's timelessness. It comes from an infinite place. It doesn't come from a patriarchal religion or even matriarchal to be that, if we're even going to go get that deep. It comes from a space where there are men and women and there's no duality. It's just literally oneness. So I can use any spiritual tool to put it to practice and I'd be good. Because no one is over the other. Once you know, you know. And if you don't know and you claim one thing and that's good for you. I'm glad that you found it and it's you. Please, I love people of true faith. I love people of true faith. People who can have discussions. I don't mind. This video message isn't to convince you to believe what I believe. I can only believe in my own beliefs. truly. So it's freeing for me. I made this decision for myself. Because it's like, okay, there's a Christian hell, a Muslim hell, a Jewish hell, a pagan hell, a Buddhist hell. Like, there's a hell. Like, hell is a concept that I think across all spirituality, spiritual practices, and religions is a true thing, a frequency. There's no denying that, as well as heaven. But I want to come from a space of non-duality. It just makes the most sense to me right now. Good versus evil. No, good versus, it's two sides of the same coin. Not everyone's going to agree with that. But the hypocrisy and spiritual practice and spirituality and religion is just too damn much for me. I just can't handle the hypocrisy. Good Lord Almighty. Can't handle. But anyway, thank you for lasting this long. If you're still here, I might actually just timestamp when I'm talking about. I'm a little bit all over the place, but with this long, and just to help you guys out, because I know some of y'all are like, hey, Rashida, I got a life. 40 minutes is a long time. So, all right, thank you.